Okay, good morning and welcome. I'm delighted to welcome you to our webinar introducing Microsoft Viva. My name is Eamon McGann and I'm the Solutions Director here at Core, and I have been involved in working with Microsoft collaboration technologies from early SharePoint days right up to Microsoft Viva. So for me, really excited to talk about Viva. It's probably all I talk about at the minute, so very keen to get into the session. I'm also joined by my colleague Kat.
Thanks, Eamon. So hi, everyone. My name is Kat Greenan, and I'm a Microsoft Solutions Specialist at Core. I work quite closely with Eamon to help our customers, again, with the collaboration platform in Microsoft 365, and now specifically Microsoft Viva.
Thanks, Kat. So Microsoft Viva, Microsoft's mission statement is pretty audacious: empower every person, every organization on the planet to achieve more. However, if you stand back and you look at any of the comms that have come out of Microsoft in the last couple of years, you can see this is very aligned to their strategy. Satya Nadella, the CEO at Microsoft, has been driving very hard at Microsoft around their culture as a business and an organization. And as a Microsoft Gold partner, we see that when we talk to our contacts at Microsoft, that the culture shift and the change has been huge. And Satya has been talking about the need to apply technology to help shape the culture of work. And he's invested a huge amount of time and energy emphasizing the importance of collaboration, learning and well-being, all coming together into a new category of solution focus. And Viva absolutely is the game changer for this transition from culturally bringing all these elements of work into a new solution. And for me, having worked on kind of early day SharePoint, early day Yammer, and some of the technologies, and somewhat disjointed at times, this is by far the most exciting technology change that I've seen in the Microsoft stack in some time. And that's in terms of potential to organizations, but also end user impact. So the employee experience element, which we'll get into more detail, for Microsoft is based on the 3 R's, and we don't mean reading and writing, but this helping organizations respond and adapt as we come out of what are strange times and recover, but also rebuild into what the new world of work is really looking for us all right now. So Viva has been on the radar for some time, but it's really landed at the right time.
Now, the driving force behind any business now, more than ever before, is its people. And one of the things that we're actually seeing impacting businesses is employee engagement. So how happy and engaged our employees are to our organization. And we know that employee engagement is having an impact on how well businesses actually perform as well. So you can see some stats here. Organizations with high employee engagement actually have 21% greater profitability, and they're actually usually in the top performing companies. And employee engagement, it's also impacting retention as well. So employees that are engaged are 12 times less likely to leave a job versus those who don't feel engaged. Now, these stats and countless other research shows that really when companies invest in their people and focus on improving the employee experience, we can really impact employee engagement, retention, customer satisfaction, and even a company's financial success. Next slide, please, Eamon. Now, we've also learned from that research that there's really 6 key elements that make a great employee experience. There's well-being, so you feel safe at work physically, mentally, and emotionally. Connection, so you belong as a trusted, integral member of a diverse community. Focus, you know what success looks like and you know what to prioritize. Empowerment, so you can easily find information, people, tools, and resources that you need. Growth, so you get what you need to maximize your strengths and learn new skills. And that's something that everybody wants, but sometimes does take a back seat. And finally, purpose, so you're part of something bigger than yourself. Now, in this current environment, people are physically apart, stressed, and lacking connection. It's really harder than ever to create a really great employee experience. Next slide, please. And there's never been a bigger need for technology, data, and insights to drive a great employee experience, regardless of your location. So we have employees who want to feel more connected and more aligned. We have leaders who need a modern way to engage and develop their employees. And IT, we need to get it done quickly. We don't want to have to rip out and replace all of our existing systems. So really what we need to think about, or what we need, is a new approach and a new category of technology we call an employee experience platform, or an EXP. Now, an EXP is a digital platform. It really puts people at the center by bringing together systems of work with systems of support into an integrated employee experience. So what we're trying to do is provide people with the resources and the support they need to succeed, no matter what their location is. What we need to be able to do is also provide an open and extensible platform so we can customize it, and something that works with systems and tools that we're already using. And that's where Microsoft Viva steps in. The vision for Viva is really that integrated employee experience platform that brings together all of the resources into the natural flow of everyday work. And if you think about some of the vendors out there now, there's lots of vendors focused on employee engagement and well-being, but they're mostly point solutions. They're looking to solve one or few of the symptoms in separate experiences. So you have fragmented solutions that are disconnected from where people are actually doing their work. Services and resources that employees need they're often undiscovered, or they're locked up in systems of record, rather than being a natural part of people's communication and workflow. And that is where Microsoft Viva really steps in and ups the game.
Okay, thanks, Kat. Okay, so Viva is Microsoft's employee experience platform, but what is that? So ultimately, there are 4 components that sit under the Viva banner, and those components can be used in lots of different ways. You don't have to use them all, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through the session this morning. And it will actually be, for the remainder of the session, we're going to focus on each of the components and spend some time talking about the component and what it means. If we start kind of left to right, so connections really is the heart of communication and collaboration with the organization. It is the gateway to the modern new employee experience. But if I really strip it back, I get a lot of questions about connections. It really is bringing SharePoint, Teams and Yammer into a single cohesive experience. So quite a big shift. The technologies haven't gone away, but we're now uniting them in a way that's much easier to consume. Insights really is living up to Satya's goal that I talked about earlier about delivering personal and organization productivity. So all the kind of business goals that we want, alongside well-being and making sure that we're looking after employees and driving employee satisfaction, which is one of the key engagement things we look for. Topics, for me, having worked in document management and knowledge management for many, many years, is a very exciting part of the technology. And this is about unlocking the expertise. We spend a lot of time reinventing the wheel. So topic is about finding knowledge quickly and simply and easily and being able to reuse that knowledge. And then finally, but definitely not last, is learning. And learning is about bringing skills into our daily and skills and learning into our daily role. And I can't touch on this point a bit earlier. Most organizations talk about doing this, but if you look at the stats, very few organizations, very few employees actually get to do that. They all know they need to do it, but it's not embedded into the fabric of what they do. This learning is really Microsoft's attempt to bring learning right into the fabric, into the business as usual of the day-to-day. And we know for a fact, if learning falls to the wayside at some point, that's one of the reasons people move on from organizations. So they're the 4 parts to Viva. However, one bit we are going to introduce today, which sometimes doesn't get talked about, but is a vital part of the Viva ecosystem, is SharePoint Syntax. And SharePoint Syntax is a relatively new, it's part of the Project Cortex initiative that's been going for some time now, but it's the bit about taking what knowledge does and applies that to documents. So we think it's very important that we cover syntax as well today. So we'll cover 5 elements of the product. So we'll come back to syntax as well on the list. Kat covered a lot of this before, so I want to kind of, Viva is quite unique in what Microsoft have tried to achieve. So it is integrated in one solution. It isn't about lots of fragmented solutions that Kat talked about. Kat also talked about it's not bringing you outside. A lot of the other employee experience tools are bringing you outside your day-to-day, bringing you into other tools. Viva is about keeping you in Teams and SharePoint, keeping you where you're already used to being. And it is about driving insights at teams and leaders and making better decisions, and also using the Microsoft Graph to be able to get third-party applications. Privacy is vital. You will only see the information, and a lot of the back chat we hear about things like insights is, will my manager see things they shouldn't? And the answer is no. It is about anonymizing that information and using it for the better good. So rather than individual bits of information being made aware to the individual managers. And finally, it's completely extensible. And that's one of the key missions that Microsoft have built a platform here that both ourselves individually or as software vendors can extend the platform. Briefly going to touch on this before I jump into connections. I think both myself and Kat, as we go to each individual components, we'll talk about timelines. But Viva is now launched, and it's up and running, and all of the elements are there in some shape or form. I think the key message from this slide, though, is we're really looking at summer 2021, so a couple of months from now, before all of the key features will be available. So Viva is here now at different levels, and we're really going to see the full value in a couple of months' time. And Core working with a couple of organisations, one very large organisation, where we're trialling each of the elements and preparing for the rollout of Viva come kind of summertime. So timeline, it's here, but it is evolving, and we'll talk about it as we go through it. So the first key section is Viva Connections, kind of the heart and the home of Viva. So what is Viva Connections? It is this place that we've talked about bringing people into one central place where they can contribute and collaborate. And we have a lot of tools to do that right now. We have SharePoint, Yammer, Teams and Stream. And as I said before, this is about bringing all of this into a branded application in Teams itself. And we've had a few teasers, actually. So while Viva Connections sounds like a brand new product, it's actually built on stuff that Microsoft have been sending our way for a couple of years now. So the SharePoint home site was launched or discussed and announced 2 years ago, and launched about this time last year. And it's really the beginning of what is Viva Connections, is the SharePoint home site. It is Yammer integrated. The Yammer Communities app is integrated in there. So Connections really is the evolution of those two products. It's the employee home app, as we refer to it. There are three parts to Viva, which I'm going to show you in Viva Connections, that I'm going to show you in a second. Firstly, there are resources. These are where we can connect to other things like insights and other Viva experiences, and it's founded on the SharePoint app bar, so the SharePoint home site. And this is about curated dynamic content, so sending content dynamically to users. The key difference, and we'll say this throughout, is what we're using in Viva Connections and a lot of the Viva product is artificial intelligence, or AI, to make that a much more personalized experience. So we have user curation of content, but we have AI creation of content as well. The second part of Viva is the company feed, and this is about a personalized announcements from Teams, Yammer, all in one place, curated and driven to you using the AI. And the bit that excites me, the bit I'll jump into a second, is the dashboard. The dashboard is about good access to applications and the introduction of something called activity cards. So let's actually jump in and have a quick look. And I suppose the first thing I'm going to do is actually show you what it looks like kind of out of the box right now in terms of what's been released. So if I go to a test tenant and I open up Teams, what you'll see is what I think is kind of V1 or even V0.5 of Viva Connections, and that's the desktop app that was launched in March and April. And we're not going to see. We firmly believe what this is about is moving the SharePoint homepage into Teams. So some of the functionality is there. So we have some of the nav bar and the app bar, the global navigation, but the dashboard and some of those other functions aren't available yet and won't be available until later in the summer. So whilst it's useful, the key part is coming later. So I'm going to jump out of here and show you what that looks like. So the vision of what you will see in a couple of months' time, and certainly the work we're doing with our customers is around preparing, getting them ready for what you're about to see now. So this is what Viva Connections will look like in a couple of months' time. And here we've got the three elements I referred to. We've got the feed. We've got the resources area, targeted content and resources made available to the user. We've got the company feed at the bottom, and we've got the dashboard on the right. So if we focus in on the feed and we look at what the feed's trying to achieve. So first of all, you can see we've got the three functions in the mobile, and mobile is a key part of what we're trying to achieve here. And this is about content based on your role and location. And if we step into that, really is around giving you a really seamless experience to keep up to date with announcements and news, and been able to contribute to your team, work with the team in the company on conversations. So this is where Yammer, which in the past kind of sat outside this a little bit, Yammer comes really very much to the fore and part of the conversation. And so we can do conversations directly in the feed with Yammer and do comments and all that kind of good stuff. It is based technology-wise on the Microsoft Graph, so we can pull content from other areas and target that content from other areas. So it could be coming from a practice management system and a skill system. We don't really mind where the content's coming from. The Graph will allow us to import that content in and drive it through. So really getting away from what were stale, unusable intranets into very, very usable content, usable intranets. The dashboard is the bit that I suppose excites me a little bit, and this is where we're driving key functions and we'll talk a little bit about this in a second. But for example, in the dashboard here, you can see that I'm being passed some information about the number of days I have left. I can submit some new requests, and I can see that I've been asked to do a COVID check, so quite timely for current climate. Also, one of the key things that Viva Connections will do is it will unite all the elements of Viva. So here we're seeing information coming from Viva Insights and Viva Learnings coming right into the Viva Connections dashboard. And mobile is going to be a huge part of this. So the Teams mobile app, which Viva Connections will be the home of, is delivered both for iOS and Android, so very seamless experience regardless. And it is aiming around one of the key challenges we hear when we talk about something like an intranet or connections, is that it doesn't really, as well as looking after the internal staff, what about the frontline staff? So this is very much aimed to say that the frontline worker staff will get a good personalized experience, and like we've highlighted just here, be able to get at things like shifts or logging on systems or doing their time cards, all those kind of key things delivered through the dashboard in Connections. So regardless of your role, Connections is about bringing you together and giving you the ability to do all of the elements of Viva from here. So regardless of what you're intending to do with Viva, we highly recommend that Viva Connections is really where you start. A couple of key points about Viva Connections. First and foremost, it really built upon SharePoint. So SharePoint has gone up and down in people's estimation over the years. It's the heart of Viva Connections, but it's all the learnings of the last 10, 15, 20 years into improving and making sure that Viva Teams, that SharePoint and Teams experience works seamlessly. It is about being ready for it. So there's kind of a couple of key things that we think we need to do. Firstly, making sure that if you're not on SharePoint Online, it's important to get onto SharePoint Online to be able to do this experience. Secondly, you will need the home site capability, which came in last year. So planning and organizing information architecture is a second step. Audiences, for those who use SharePoint for a long time will have used audiences. Audiences is a key part. Came in and out of SharePoint over the years. It's there now and will be a key part. And then extending Yammer into the experience. So I think our key message is by September, October, we'll be in a place where Viva Connections is where we need it to be. The prep work that customers need to do, like we're doing with 2 or 3 customers right now, is about getting the SharePoint environments, the Yammer environments, and the information architecture ready for it, and then deploy into Viva Connections. Very, very exciting, and we think it's important for a number of key things. First and foremost, the key thing we hear about intranets, no matter how good they started, is they go stale. It's a common complaint. This is about using technology to drive really good information. And if you're looking at a new portal, a new intranet, a new collaboration environment based on anything close to the Microsoft technology, Viva Connections has to be a top priority. And we're talking to customers right now who've put projects on hold so they can watch what Viva Connections will do. So Viva Connections is very much part of that big piece. Secondly, there is a massive shift towards task focus, driving tasks. Cortana is currently telling a lot of us on a daily email, which is a bit of hit and miss, but actually Connections is about making sure that we get those, what I need to be doing, delivered in a nice, meaningful way. We have talked about pane of glass type solution for many, many years. Viva Connections is the pane of glass that we've been kind of waiting for. And finally, it is going to be the way I said this a little bit earlier, it's kind of come at the right time as organizations are shifting. So we think it's going to be critically important to that shift as people do, look at what they're doing over the coming 12, 18 months or so. So that's a quick whistle-stop tour of Viva Connections. So the second part, and again, part that interests me greatly, is Viva Topics. So Viva Topics really is about knowledge and expertise. We have knowledge and expertise all over organizations, be they in chats, documents, CRM systems. People are really struggling to find that information. And more importantly, when they find stuff, get good information from that. When I talk to people, they always talk about the strategies they have to find information. And a lot of it is very personal driven, so goes out of date quite regularly. Microsoft also did, Kat did some stats earlier, but Microsoft did a stat saying that Ziff Davis did a survey with them that people on average spend 7 weeks a year searching and recreating, and recreating is probably the important bit. So Topics is about trying to fix that issue. So it uses AI exclusively. It's a very heavy part of what it does to understand the themes of work that the things you regularly do, the themes you regularly work with, and put them into something it calls topics. So for each topic, it will create a topic page, and it's putting all the relevant people, content, and even other topics, just to confuse things, into kind of a mind map to say, here's what we know about that topic. And what is a topic? A topic is driven by AI, but actually the real bit is that as humans, we then curate and add to what the AI engine has done. But it's about things like internal projects or skills or expertise or products. It will work out that we have a product, it will create a topic page, and it will pull all the information that it has in on that topic page. So a great word I heard is it's kind of like the Wikipedia for the enterprise, where AI does, here's what I've found, and then hands it back to the kind of content managers to say, extend this and curate this. And fundamentally, a question we get asked a lot is really going to be about the privacy. You know, is the information private? And the answer is yes. Whilst it will gather this information, it will only show it to people that are allowed to see it. So let me jump in and show you a quick look at what it looks like. So I'm going to start with actually what it looks at right now, and it also is going to evolve in the coming months, and some of the features are being added. So I'll show you the features being added in a second, but where is it at right now? So if I quickly just change my view and I go into a content page. So this is an article in SharePoint, and the first thing you should see in here is that it's a pretty standard article, but straight away we have something called the Digital Service Initiative, and it's hyperlinked. And if I hover on that hyperlink, topics is now in use on this particular page, and I have what's called a topic card. So this is giving me an immediate pop-up that's telling me that this is a topic in my business called Digital Service Initiative, and it's telling me I've got some resources. It's telling me that these are people involved with it. It's also telling me, you know, should this even be here? So it's asking for feedback all the time. So I'm going to show you a bit more about that in a second, but how did that get there? So firstly, if I put the page into edit mode, and if I quickly reread the text, I noticed that at the end it says we're planning to expand into several regions. So I'm actually going to add another topic and use hashtags to do that. And immediately I can start, hang on, I didn't. So let me just I'll do a hashtag, and I'm going to start typing a topic. So it's giving me most recent one, but I can type in regional, and I found regional, whoops, I spelled wrong. I found regional sales. So I've dropped in a topic, and I'm now going to publish the page. And then to the consumers who see this new page, there's now another hyperlink. So I've got two topics now listed on this page. So I'll stick on the Digital Service Initiative one. If I click on it, the system will bring me straight to the topics page. So this is the live topics page, and this is primarily what the system has found out. So it has some information about what DSI is, or Digital Service Initiatives. It's told me that it has some acronyms, DSIs that it's worked out. It's got some information. Here are the people that are important that it's worked out, have some context to DSI. It's got all the files that are pinned and recognized that belong to this. It's also got some suggestions, and it's got some related information. Now, I stick this into edit mode, you'll see a few extra features. So firstly, I can add more acronyms. So I can now start to create this and say, you found interesting, but you've missed some stuff. I could say you missed Adele. Adele's also a key person that understands everything about DSI. And then as I go down, I can see that I can add more files. So I can say you missed some really important files. But probably more importantly, I can go to the AI engine and say, these are files that are important. You suggested them. I'm now going to pin these in to make sure they appear at the top of the search. And then the other thing which is interesting is this ability to create a mind map of this particular topic and how it relates to other topics. And that is work in progress. I'm not sure if it works that well at the minute, but it's something that's working, that they're working on. So that's how I can edit a topic page and add to the topic page. So if I just discard that and leave it as is. So the next thing I want to do is show you kind of the next level, more the admin level. So first, if I go to Topic Center, one of the key things you'll see in here is these are all the topics that the AI engine has found. And the one thing we would say is if you're trialing this, you need to give this a couple of weeks. The first 3 or 4 days it finds very little, then over time it finds a lot. And the way we know that this is not manually created topic is that as suggested. So AI has worked out that these are things that are talked about a lot in our business. It's created a topic around it, and it's created information connected to it. And if I want to see the admin view of that, I'll just click here and go into manage topics. So I'm now in an area that's only available to the topic administrator. And here it's telling me these are all the topics that is currently found in my SharePoint environment, and giving me some ability to interact with it. It's giving me some interesting information here, by the way. It's telling me the quality, and quality means the volume of content that it's found that relates to that topic. So The one that it's found the most about, that it's created the biggest topic page on, is DC 330. The one it's found least about is down the bottom, white world. So it's found a topic, but it's found nothing of any real relevance in that topic. The impressions is actually the number of times that it has suggested and recommended somebody see this topic. So it's the number of times that it thinks. So the higher the impression, the more likely it's going to be valuable to individuals. So it lets me have a look at what it's finding. This page tells me stuff that people have manually confirmed and said this is a valid topic. And this page tells me stuff that somebody has gone in and created and added some content and automatically published. So we can suggest and confirm a topic, or we can actually go and publish it and add some information to it. And we can also say, listen, we want to remove a few that they don't exist. So that's topics at its simplest in terms of the topic card, the information it holds. But one key thing for me is how do people are going to interact with topics. And as it stands right now, this is a live demo. These are the kind of things that are available, and I'll show you a few other things in a second. So for example, search. I think this is going to be the key experience. And one of the things I'm going to search for is Project Titan. So I'm going to type Titan, I'm going to ignore the word project and hit search. Because Project Titan as a word is a topic in the environment, as well as having all the normal search terms, I now have a discovery card again. So it's showing me all the key information. So if I'm new to the business and I'm told I'm working on digital service initiatives, I'm working on Project Titan, the first thing I do if I type in Titan, it's going to immediately say, we know a lot about Titan. And if you go into the topic card, you get to see all the people, you can see all the documents, and you'll get to do some Q&A. That's a bit that's not available yet. So I wanted to show you those two other features that won't be available for a few months. So the first one is Teams. So this experience you can see right here is in a Teams chat, the ability to put the hashtag and the topic into Teams. It is coming very, very soon. It's not here right now. It's exactly the same that you saw in SharePoint. It's just been able to do it in the Teams chat. That's coming very soon. And then the second bit, which is the bit I think is really, really cool, is the bit to ask questions. So in the actual topic card, I can start asking a question. Once I've asked the question, people who are part of that topic can answer the question. And as more people answer questions, the AI engine will say, well, I know even more, and I'll auto answer questions. So as it learns, it will auto answer the question where it can. So some pretty important stuff coming through with topics. I think if we look at why topics is some of the key things about topics, it's a V1, it just launched. There are a few little bugs in the UI, so a little bit of awareness around that. It does need time to learn, so give it a bit of patience. And finally, our key point is size, and we've had a lot of discussion with customers about size. So sub maybe 50, 100 users, maybe there's not a huge amount of value in topics. It does need a lot of content. So if you're very knowledge content heavy, then I think topics is for you. We certainly feel that topics, it's definitely ubiquitous. We'll wonder how we manage to find content without it. And we think Microsoft have definitely stolen the lead with this one. So some really cool technology in here, and we think it's vital. And I think one of the key things, topics is really going to solve is that kind of being overwhelmed. When we talk to customers about how much information they have and how overwhelmed they are, topics is about joining those dots and joining all the key content we have in our organization. So it's the bit, if you like, and I'll talk about syntax in a second. For us, it's the bit that's been really missing for some time now. The second part really is, it is about stopping us recreating content all the time, and it is really about connecting people and the expertise within your organizations. Professional service companies, law firms, consultancies, this is really going to be a go-to for those kind of organizations. And if you have users complaining in any shape or form about search, you really need to start considering topics and syntax that we're going to come into in a second. And that's probably the perfect segue to talk about syntax. So SharePoint syntax is document management and document search and sorting some of the key issues that we've had historically in the past. One of the parts of syntax demo, I'm actually going to start with the demo first because I want to, I'm just going to change screens here a second. So I'm going to go to a document library here, and I'm going to upload a document, and then I'm going to let it do its magic behind the scenes. So here's a document library in SharePoint, and I'm going to upload a document. So I'm going to upload an SOW document into this library. And the first thing you might notice that's brand new once you've syntax configured is I have had a pop-up come up immediately saying we're analyzing the file and we'll come back to you. This analyze process takes about 5 to 10 minutes, so we'll see how well it gets on as I kind of jump back in. But ultimately, it's upload the document. You can see there's a number of fields that are empty. Let's see what syntax does with that shortly. So popping back into what is syntax. So Syntax fundamentally is a content services engine that's trying to do three things: understand your content, have a look in the content and work out what is it. Is this a statement of work? Is this an invoice? And once it's understood the document, let's start doing something with the document. Let's pull out information, let's ingest it, and let's improve the life cycle. Let's do some stuff. Let's shove it into your finance system and do some really cool stuff with it. And once we've classified the document and understood the documents in great level of detail, we can start doing things like compliance. A key thing about Syntax, and in terms of how it understands documents and looks at documents, is really a little bit like topics. It's about the strength of AI and people coming together. So people can continue to do, as they always have done, add documents and tag them and use content types. But the real strength in Syntax is the two functions on the right. It's the forms processing and the document understanding. They're the two new technologies with a bit of an update on how it does optical character recognition. So the bit I really want to focus in on and actually demo is forms processing and document understanding, and in particular document understanding. So what are those two technologies that effectively are the cornerstone of Syntax? So firstly, we have something called document understanding, and the demo I'm going to do is document understanding. So this is where we train the system, we build a model, and we train the system to understand what a document is, and then classify and pull information out of that. So we create a model in the SharePoint tenant, and then we can apply to any library in the tenant. And this is based on unstructured documents. So we don't really care what the structure of the document is. We're looking for patterns in that document to work out what it is, and then pull some metadata from it. And really, this is about applying metadata and ensuring that we've got good discoverability and good compliance. Form processing is slightly different, it uses a slightly different technology, and in this case where it's on a library by library basis, and you kind of know two things when you're using forms processing. Firstly, you know what's in the library, so you probably know that in most cases there are invoices in that library, and the format of the document is going to be pretty much identical, and that allows us to do what's called exact key matching. So we can pull out the invoice number and put it put it into metadata, and probably more importantly, put it straight into our finance system. So if somebody uploads a finance document, a purchase order or an invoice, we automatically strip out the information, put it into the finance system, and we're good to go. So that processing is much faster. And the final bit before I jump in and do a demo is all of this information allows us to ensure we classify and can do our compliance. And that's kind of key part of what we're seeing currently at remote work. And we'll come back to that in a second. So to jump back in to kind of show what it does and maybe some of the models that sit behind it. So if I very briefly jump back in, as I expected, it hasn't done anything yet. I'll just do a quick refresh. It takes about 5 or 6 minutes, so it's not there yet. But if I do step in and have a quick look at what's going on behind the scenes. So firstly, I'm going to open up something called the Content Center. And the Content Center is a key feature of the Syntax product. Syntax, as I said, has been out for 6+ months now. And in here we can see this is the type of content that it's aware of. And it's all built on something we call content models. And I'm using document understanding models here, not forms processing models. So here I've got 4 models. And one of the models is the SOW classifier. So this is a model that I've built to say, try and understand in my environment all SOWs and do something with them. And it does it in 2 ways. So I'll briefly show this, how it does this. Firstly, we train it. So we take in a number of documents and we give it documents that are pretty much SOWs. They don't have to be identical documents, by the way, and that's a really important part, but the construct and the content in there is a positive match to an SOW document. And we also need to give it what's not an SOW, if that's what we're trying to find in this particular case. So we label the document, and then we train the document to say, this document looks pretty much like it's an SOW, and if it is an SOW, by the way, I want you also to add a retention label. So this is how we train it to be, what is the document? This is an SOW. So if I then go back to my classifier, I have something called an extractor. So the 2 key parts of document understanding are classifying to understand what the document is, and extractors to pull information out. And in this particular model, I'm pulling out 2 bits of information. I'm pulling out an SOW number and I'm pulling out the customer number. And I build those as I train those individually. So if I have a quick look at the SOW number, very similar to what you saw a second ago, but in this case, we tell it in the document roughly where an SOW number will be or what an SOW number looks like. And then secondly, we train it to say, where roughly will it be? So we have what in here we have an after and a before constraint. So an SOW will normally come after the word an SOW number, I should say, will normally come after the word SOW and normally before the word for. So this is the different strategies and methods that we use to train the system. And if I pop back here and give it a refresh, it hasn't found it yet, but just to show you, I've used the exact same document in another library. Here's what it looks like, and it's pulled out the SOW number and the customer number, and it's gone specifically that document, pulled it out. So now that I've pulled that information out, I can do whatever I like. I can create workflows. More importantly, I can now search for white technology, so my search is massively improved. I've got SOW searching, and what you might notice also is it's added the retention label. So this as an SOW document is now going to be retained for 5 years, because and that's all by just uploading the document. So syntax is throughout the heart of that. So a couple of kind of final points on syntax. If I pop back to the slides. So firstly, this is a stable product. It's been around for some time, it's up and running, and it works really, really well. Secondly, we feel it's an absolute go-to for any organization that's looking at search, document management, knowledge management, or business process around documents. Having syntax is a really key part of driving that and getting away from the fact that people just don't create use metadata. So if metadata is your challenge and you need metadata, syntax solves that problem. There is a potential issue with syntax and that there's an additional cost, but we feel for those that are using and need the workloads that we're referring to, we feel that cost is justifiable and certainly compared very well to third parties that people have used in the past. And I think the final bit of why Viva is so important, why syntax is so important, is it's going to solve that problem of search. I'm sure many of you on there have heard people say SharePoint search doesn't work. We get the metadata right, SharePoint search works. Those of you that really want to get value from process, syntax is a key part of that. And finally, for those of you that have loads and loads of content, gigabytes and terabytes of data that you don't know what's in there, Viva syntax will have a look at that, grab the metadata from it and give you some control of that dark data that you have. So quite an important product and one that we think is vital. Kat, I'm going to hand back to you.
Perfect, thanks Eamon. So let me just share my screen. Now we're going to have a look at Viva Learning. So Viva Learning is really the central hub for learning, where your people can discover, they can share, they can assign, and they can learn from content libraries across the organization. And that's including LinkedIn Learning, Microsoft Learn, and third-party content providers, and even your organization's own custom content. Now, learning and training, as we know, needs to really be part or a natural part of the day. I mean, if we think about traditional classroom style training, like booking out time, and it's a little bit questionable on how effective that actually is. Whereas Viva Learning is quite nice because it just embeds it into every employee's daily work, and it creates a bit of a learning culture as well. An important point is that it's really easy to consume. And it's proactive, so it's going to tell me what I've done and then what I need to do next. And as I mentioned, Viva Learning work with your own content. So if you have specific training that you're sharing for your project teams, or compliance training, security training, new HR portal, could be anything, you can embed that into Viva Learning. It also works with Microsoft Learning content as well as LinkedIn Learning courses as well. There are some third-party learning management systems like Cornerstone On Demand and SAP SuccessFactors that you can add into Viva Learning as well. Now, with Viva, employees can also easily discover, they can share everything from training courses to even, micro-learning content. And from the manager's perspective, you get the tools that you need to be able to assign courses and learning and track outcomes to really just help foster a better learning culture. One of the really great tools, as Eamon mentioned before, with topics, learning also uses AI, and the AI actually recommends the right content at the right time for my employees. So let's take a quick look at Viva Learning. So the first thing you'll notice is this is when I'm logged into Microsoft Teams as an employee, and on the left-hand side, I have Viva Learning added as a tab. So the learning part of Viva is within Teams. It's the place that I'm already working in. I don't have to go to another website, another tool, another system, and dig out and try and find some training that might be out of date. It's all updated constantly for me, and you'll see that I have some learning that's assigned to me, and some recommended learning as well. And the different types of content that I have, if I just scroll down here, there's things like courses. There's Microsoft Learn in there. There is PowerPoints, videos, PDFs, modules. There's a huge amount of resources, and it's all a mixture of the third-party content, the Microsoft content, LinkedIn, and our own as well. Let's take a look at one of the modules that have been assigned to me. So this is a Remote Projects and Virtual Teams course from LinkedIn. I can see that the icon is here. I'm just going to open this up. And what I can see initially is, because it was assigned to me, I can see it was assigned by Naomi. So Naomi might be my manager who's recommending that I learn this or I complete this course. So what I can do, I can open up the course. And one of the really nice things is that it's opened up directly in Teams as well. It's not, again, opened up to another browser or an MP4 file or anything like that. It's within Teams directly, and from here I can play the video and I can even kind of answer the questions and complete this course directly within Teams. I mentioned previously the ability to share. So what I can do, if I find a course or a video or something in Viva Learning that's going to be really useful for my colleagues or for my team, I can share it directly within a Teams chat or even a Teams channel message if I want to. So I can say, check this out, I recommend watching it, and my colleague can click on that. It will open up their Viva Learning and they can view that video. So in terms of sharing content, it makes life a little bit easier. What we can also do is add some Viva Learning topics to a team or to a channel within a team. So you can see here, I'm in my Really Cloud team, I'm in Project SOAR channel, and what we've actually done is we've added a specific SOAR Learning tab. So everyone in that team could go into that channel and they can quite easily access all of the courses that are relevant to the work that we're doing. As a manager, what I can do is actually assign these courses to my colleagues. So I can choose Assign, and I can actually manage the assignment. So I can see who exactly has completed the course, who's in progress, or who hasn't started the course. So I can really track the success of Viva Learning and what we're doing. So a couple of predictions or a couple of points with Viva Learning. Really, it's going to become a curated search engine for all of the learning within the organization. It's the whole idea of one place to find all work content and all training content, and kind of creating that into one place. Any Microsoft-centric learning management systems will always integrate into Viva in the future. And one of the nice things is that Viva Learning is free in the sense that it's included with your Microsoft 365 licensing. The additional cost comes at the third-party content. So if you are looking at the third-party content I mentioned, integrating those in, those come at additional costs, but you have your own content, you have Microsoft Learn in there, all available to use. And a couple of notes on why it's important. So organizations really, it's about developing a culture of learning. We're trying to keep up with the pace of change. We're trying to retain great talent. And specifically, a recent report from LinkedIn found that 94% of employees would stay at a company longer if it invested in their learning and development. So Viva Learning really does encourage a learning culture. It can be used for, I mentioned, your own security and compliance training, as well as giving managers the opportunity to suggest training to their staff. Another important point is compliance. So any suggested content or learning courses or topics are totally governed by privacy controls, security, and the Microsoft Graph. So that means that users will only see content that they have access to. So we've looked at Microsoft Viva Learning. There is also the last part of Viva, which is Viva Insights. So Viva Insights provides really personalized recommendations to really change how you work to do your best work. So what you're going to be able to get is insights to build better work habits. So following through on commitments that you've made to others, or protecting some focus time to get some individual work done. And it really derives these insights by summarizing your Microsoft 365 data. So that's data you already have access to. That's emails, meetings, calls, and chats. Now, there are 3 types of insights that are provided. So there are personal insights. So that's personal insights to the employee. It's only insights that I can see. I can see insights about how I work and what I could do to change my habits. So there's some recommendations there, such as protecting time in the day for regular breaks, for focused work, and learning that helps improve well-being and boost productivity. There's also team insights. So this is manager insights. So really the manager will be able to see his team's or her team's work patterns that might lead to burnout or stress. And that could include things like regular after-hour meetings or little focus time or meeting overload. So managers can use those insights to really help strike that balance with their teams between productivity and well-being. And the last one is organizational insights. So organizational insights really just help business leaders to address any kind of critical questions about your organization's resiliency. And it really gives an overview of your work culture and things you can do and steps you can take to change processes to really improve the culture of the organization. So let's take a quick look at some of those insights that I've mentioned. So this is Viva Insights. This is the personal insights. And what you can see is, again, I'm in Teams, I'm logged in, and Insights is my tab on the left-hand side. It's all within the place that I'm doing most of my work. And the first couple of things that you'll see in here is, so it's given me recommendations to focus, book some focus time in. This is time that's got no notifications. It's there for me to just get work done. And it's even suggesting me to put some coaching time in, get a one-to-one with your manager this month. And here you can find some scheduling options and book that in. What it's also doing is working with Viva Learning. So they all integrate together nicely. And what it's doing here is the course that I showed you earlier with Viva Learning. It's actually including this and recognizing it might be useful for me. And so it's asking me, do you want to book some learning time? What I also have is suggestions for breaks, taking regular breaks. Do you want to start meditating? And also a virtual commute. So at the end of your day, do you want to get some support closing out your tasks and time for meditation or, just planning what you have tomorrow? So all of these work together to create personal insights. And you can see on the mobile app, it works just as seamlessly. So this is me doing my virtual commute home. I'm looking at and giving some feedback. I'm doing some guided meditation. I'm looking at what meetings I have tomorrow. And I can then say I'm home and done. Now, from the manager's point of view, so this is the manager's view, I can see my team. And I can see that I actually have some employee burnout that's possible. There's 60% of my team are working after hours. So what I could do is I can click on this and get some more detailed view of what's happening. And then I can see a recommended plan. So what can I do to help my team to unplug from work at the end of the day? I can recommend that they say no to meetings, that they turn off notifications, and it just gives me some helpful tips. Your organization, this is the organizational stats that I mentioned. So here, this is for the business leaders looking at your organization's resilience. So you can see the cohesion between teams. You can see employee engagement here. And you can even look at this data in Power BI. So I can go to Power BI and I can see, okay, look at the weekly collaboration hours per week and per person. I can have a look at our employee well-being in here as well. So it works with Power BI as well as Insights to give me that organizational view. So I might want to change some processes on how we work to improve employee well-being and productivity. Now, just a couple of key things with Viva Insights. So it's really a blend of my analytics. So that's like your personal view into your own work habits and routine. It's being targeted at organizations who have about 5,000 users plus. Now, this is really in order to get the best insights. The more data you have to pull from, the better it's going to be. And there has been some confusion around the licenses. So Viva Insights, there will be a free tier, which is the personal view. So that's similar to my analytics. The manager and the organizational insights will come at an additional cost per user per month. So there is some levels of it being included in Microsoft licensing. The organization and the manager view will be additional. And just to end on why it's important, so there's a 2020 study that 70% of employees have reported higher stress levels and more than half have reported elevated levels of anxiety. So people are stressed and they expect some level of support in the workplace. So really what we need to do is prioritize well-being and boost productivity We want to make sure people are having regular breaks, focused work and learning. And one of the nice things about Viva Insights is that it supports the organizational focus. So managers and leaders, you get such crucial data to help your teams strike that balance between productivity and well-being. And employees, they contribute to their organization in so many ways, and nothing goes further than the acknowledgement of their work. So with personal insights and actionable insights in teams, your employees can protect time for learning, they can get recommended courses, and really when we're investing in our organization's employees, they can keep up to date with their skills, knowledge, and increase retention, which is hugely important to every organization. So that was Microsoft Viva Insights. I will let Eamon jump in here just for the some updates on timings and licensing.
Yeah, I think we've touched on a fair bit. Thanks, Kat. I think we've touched on a fair bit of this throughout, but I think we just want to be clear about a few things. So Viva Connections, it's been rolled out, it's there, but for a lot of our customers that we're working with on the pilot right now, we're building up to releasing late summer. So again, looking at intranets, Viva Connections is a go-to, but we're looking at end of summer. It is free. So long as you've got a kind of an E1 license or above all of the components, there's no extra cost. The dashboard element may have some paid for modules at some point in the future, but the concepts are expected to be free. Viva Learnings, it is in private preview, and again, we're going to see later in the summer it coming on full stream. But the third-party add-ons are the bits that will be the extension from a subscription point of view. Viva Insights version 1 is up and running. We've all got a working core within Teams itself. The personal element is definitely where it's targeted at the minute. And if you're using things like Workplace Analytics, there will be a license fee and will be based around the Workplace Analytics license fee. Can't touch on this. The target audience is somewhere more around the 5,000 users, but there are discussions going on about maybe how they aim it towards smaller organizations. So one thing we don't want to leave you with is Insights. If you're below 5,000 users, Insights isn't for you. It's the full end-to-end Insights is aimed at the slightly larger audiences, but the more analytical, my analytics stuff is still very much available for all organizations. And Topics, it's cool, it works, some really good stuff in there. It's still a V1. It is available now, but there is a £3.80 per user per month license fee, and exact same for Syntax is a £3 per user per month license fee for those that are using the key functionalities. So those are top functionality exists right now, but there are fee to use them. You get a 1 month trial license, which a lot of customers are doing to see the power, and then you take from there. Thanks, Kat.
So in terms of next steps, if you have found the information today useful, we have a couple of things to offer. So you can book a demo for your team. So if you want a more intimate, specific demo of Microsoft Viva or any aspect of Microsoft Viva, specifically for your department or your organization, then please let us know. We're happy to book that in. We also have a workshop on offer at the moment where we have one of our specialists talk to you about Microsoft Viva, looking at the business use cases of Viva, deployment considerations, and a bit more of an in-depth specific demonstration in there as well. So if you did want to get in touch or find out more about the workshops, please let us know. The email address is hello@core.co.uk if you want to request any of those or more information. And please do follow us on social media, where we are posting about our next webinars that are coming up as well. But with that, we will now end the event. If there are any questions, we'll stick around for a few more minutes. Please feel free to pop your questions in the Q&A window, and we'll hang on to answer some of those for you. But thank you very much for attending the session, and I hope you found it useful.